Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Gaming Daddy channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. So today we're going to be looking at Gear 2.0, the changes made into Division 2, and how I believe those changes have benefited the game and a little bit more work that needs to be done to these changes in order to make, I would say, complete the entire cycle in terms of development. So one thing about the Division 2 was when it launched, the gear system was so wacky. Everything was all over the place. And for the longest time in the community, we could not really figure out what the developers were trying to do with a lot of the gear systems. So they had these systems, and I know I'm going to get some, heat over this, that allowed for you to build based on your what we call core attributes right now. So 7 reds, 11 blues, 2 yellows, and these build patterns. And to be very honest, those were kind of tiring, man. They really took the fun out of building, if you were to ask me. When you kind of think about it, you had to gather all of these different combinations and all of the above. And then you also had talents. These talents pretty much, consisted of you stacking specific talents on your gear and then, using them to build build up to your stats. It was a very different time. I mean, I would probably link a few videos for builds from back then so that those of you who are new to the game can take a look at that. But today's video is focusing on where the development finally went. So when the developers were probably trying to put together what the build structure will look like with the Division 2, I mean, pre and even post Warlords of New York, I think they finally gave in and said, we're just going to go back and do what we did or do something similar to what we did in the Division 1. You see, Tom Clancy's The Division 1 eventually got to a place where they made some concessions towards the end game. And there are differences here, and I'm going to try my best within one video to explain a lot of these differences. Already you're seeing, this is a gear set, build. This is based on a classified gear set build, actually. The strongest form of a gear set in the Division 1. And for those you had to run 6 pieces, you could not run 4 pieces and get the full max, bonuses because they were tied to the 5 pieces and the 6-piece bonuses. And you had to basically use them to gain the overall ability. But something I want to show you here is each gear item had its major attributes and had some minor attribute as well. Now, I think this was relegated to the backpacks. I think only the backpacks had the major and minor attributes. The chest pieces as well. The mask had major and minor attributes. And then, where's the chest piece? The chest piece just basically had, it also had major and minor attributes. My goodness. Knee pads had major and minor attributes when it came to the classified. And then your holsters only had the major attributes. I'm sorry, I mixed that up. Okay, so when you think about the major and minor attribute, thing, I mean, you're probably looking at, but we don't have major and minor attributes in Division 2. Yeah, we do. They just call them core attributes and attributes. That's all they did call them. And they made the numbers slightly different to work for the gear system in the Division 2. So if you look at the build that I have on, the build I have on is also a gear set build. But now, for you to be able to get the full bonuses of the gear sets, the developers eventually reverted away from you having to use 6 pieces. Yes, in the Division 2, when we launched, gear sets actually required you to use 6 pieces to be able to gain full power for the gear sets. Now, you don't have to do that. You can actually mix and match, use exotics, use named items, and be able to get your build to where it needs to be. And don't forget, specializations also add just a very nice variety to the entirety of the build. And so it came down to the developers actually making that change in terms of how builds work. Another really interesting aspect, though, and this is, I think, one of the main, sides of things, was when it came to the different brand sets. Now, here in the Division 1, we don't have brand sets. We have exotics and we have named items called the high-end items, and that was basically it. So I think that's a place where the Division 1 kind of got stuck in its own build because the developers didn't want to continue the game. They didn't continue to add gear sets to the game, or they didn't even feel like tweaking many gear sets, if you were to even ask me. For those of you who know, remember the secret gear set that showed up at the PTS that never, came out in the game? Well, I think that was kind of the hint that they were not going to be adding any gear sets because they didn't even rework that gear set. They just pulled it entirely. But here in the Division 2, another thing that they reverted to was they reverted to the point of allowing for brand sets to be able to have all their 6 items available in the game. So let me give you an example. Example is Douglas and Harding. So I have a Douglas and Harding mask here. You see, back in the day, Douglas and Harding was only able to grant you, I think, a mask, knee pads, and I think backpack or gloves, if I'm not mistaken. It only had 3 possibilities. It wasn't till later on during the game that the developers went ahead and said, yo, we need to go ahead and actually make available the different aspects of the brand sets for everybody. And so at that point, you could get a Douglas and Harding chess piece. This did not exist in the game before about, close to Gear 2.0 when they started making these changes. I think right before Warlords of New York came out, they opened up this particular possibility, and, people were able to build and even add more variety to the build. But then, at that point, the game got stale. This is another thing. The game became very weird. Everybody was super strong. We were eating content very fast. And at that point, when you've gotten to that point in a game where there are no surprises for you, naturally, it's only a matter of time before you find yourself, trying to find something else to play or move on to something else. So Warlords of New York came out. Difficulty levels were scaled. A lot of drama happened. But eventually, we got to the place where the gear and the brand set game have eventually stabilized, where things are now viable, things are now able to match the content that's available, and there's also a huge variety of gear sets and brand sets. In fact, a lot of them are able to pretty much knock out a bunch of content within the game. And I think this is actually a good thing. And I even mentioned this in my past video where I talked about the differences between the True Patriot gear set from even April of 2019 to now, which is in Division 2. And, one of my clan members actually commented on that video and said, one more thing that could be done to allow for this game to actually reach some really serious, I would say heights, is they need to get to the point where they actually rework some more brand sets to make them useful in the game. And I said, that's actually very true. I've been wanting to gripe about 511 for so long. So why don't I make a video where I gripe about how 511 drops you the best pieces in the game, but you cannot really use them for anything? Does anybody feel me? I mean, do you not have that beautiful 511 backpack that just has everything max rolled? I mean, I think I may have deleted all my 511 stuff. Do you not just have one of those items that are just, well rolled, and that you will not be able to use this because they took the health system and they pretty much didn't know what to do with it, because for some reason in PvP it was probably maybe a problem, or maybe they didn't want people to stay alive too long in PvP, and then they eventually went ahead and decided, okay, we're just gonna go ahead and just nuke that option from everybody, I guess. And I don't know, 511 just got left in the mud, and now you can't really do anything with 511. In fact, right now, I would say even Alp Summit used to be a very good one, but for now there really isn't much you can do with Alp Summit, because things like Future Initiative have come in and have taken basically the cake. I mean, Richter and Kaiser used to be also very good for healing, and there really isn't much that you can do with it. In fact, Circle of Concern is almost right now a back burner brand set, even though it does work to give you more SMG damage, but because of the way you can crit and you can stack up crit chance and crit damage using Providence, using Grupo, using Cheska, somehow these pieces have fallen away from the game's overall, I would say, usefulness in terms of categories. Another one is Murakami. Murakami used to be a very decent brand set, but when the Empress showed up, I guess she came in and kicked out the, the warrior or whatever it is. And so Empress International has also taken the cake when it comes to usefulness of brand sets in that category for skill duration, skill damage, and, using skill efficiency. Now, this is a good thing. It means that there's progress going on, but also it means that these particular brand sets are taking room, because now the more viable brand sets have to now compete with the viable brand sets when it comes to targeted loot. Examples are Petrov. Petrov really has almost no usefulness other than the contractor's gloves. Now, yes, it's worth farming, but other than that one piece, I don't think you really want to use much of the Petrov. Now, yes, I get it. The Vladmistia, chess piece as well, which is the named braced the named chess piece that comes with braced, is one that you can craft. But other than those two, I don't really see much use for them. And so what I believe that the opportunity is right now for the developers is that they come in and they make these brand sets useful, change their usefulness, change their the brand set bonuses and actually research and find unique playstyles that players actually, use a lot of and use it to add some variety within the game. I think this is the final and complete work that will really overall grant Gear 2.0 that 9 out of 10 rating for me. As it stands, for many people, Gear 2.0 is around a 7, 8 out of 10 rating. They really love and enjoy it, and they believe that, if the game would actually take this to a whole different level, then we can pretty much see, that finalization of what they're trying to realize from what they actually adopted from the Division 1. But again, this was a discussion video, so at the end, I must ask, I need you to comment. What do you think about all of this? And yeah, I know I'm going to get the comments of, they should just let everything like they did from Division 1. Y'all know that was not going to happen. This is Ubisoft massive. They dream too much. I mean, they're trying to make an Avatar and a Star Wars game. So if you already knew the psyche or the psychology of that studio, you would have seen the Division 2 coming from a long distance away. But I want to hear your thoughts nonetheless. What do you think about all of this gear changes that have happened so far, for the better, for the worse? Talk to you guys in another video. Thank you for your time and audience. Peace out.